welcome to this special edition of Studio 5. We've got our boots on the ground, and we are headed to Texas for a look at black cowboys.
There's nothing like a Texas rodeo, and the long-running Bill Pickett Invitational is extra special. Pickett is just one name in the rich history of the black cowboy. We're inside the museum for the full story.
God asked me to open up this museum.
And from history to present day, we visit a ranch with horsepower on 4 legs and 4 wheels.
And throughout the show, we've got a special Top 5 countdown. We're taking a look at 5 unsung black cowboys, those who made a significance in the Wild West. We begin with Jesse Stahl and Mary Fields.
At number 5, Jesse Stahl, a black cowboy considered one of the greatest bronco riders in history, known for signature rodeo competitions. One stunt included riding a bucker named Tar Baby backwards with a suitcase in his hand. Stahl is in the Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. Mary Fields comes in at number 4, a cowgirl in the Wild West. She became the first African-American woman to work for the United States Postal Service in Cascade, Montana. Nicknamed Stagecoach Mary because of her mode of transportation and being reliable, Fields was also an owner and operator of a laundry service and could fix anything. She was so well respected, schools would celebrate her birthday. She is portrayed in films and a documentary called Northwest Homesteaders.
That countdown continues through the rest of this Studio 5 special. Let's turn now to a black rodeo. The Bill Pickett Invitational celebrates black cowboys and cowgirls. It's the longest running rodeo in the United States with this focus, and it's showing no signs of hanging up the saddle.
Your husband started this 41 years ago.
He did.
What happened to make him do this?
Let me tell you the story, because that's always a great question. Lou Vasson, who is the founder, in 1977 went to Cheyenne, Wyoming, to the largest rodeo in the world. And he was sitting there watching the rodeo and very intrigued by it. But what caught his attention is that there was nobody there competing that looked like him, and found that there were black cowboys and cowgirls all across the United States, but they were not given the opportunity to participate or perform. So he decided at that time he was going to put together an African American Rodeo Association for the black cowboys and cowgirls. And we stand here now, 41 years later, celebrating his legacy.
People who don't know who Bill Pickett is, if you could summarize who is Bill Pickett and why we're celebrating.
I can. We named the Rodeo Association after Bill Pickett because Bill Pickett was one of the most prominent African American cowboys in our history. So he was due his recognition. And after Lou did the research about him, he said, that's who we need to name the rodeo after, so people can learn about who Bill Pickett was. Because when we started this journey, nobody knew Bill Pickett, but people know who Bill Pickett is now.
Was it difficult? Was there pushback for blacks to participate?
Well, you know, when you look back in our history, the world is what it was. The world is what it is, okay? And you have to deal with the cards that you're dealt. So because the opportunities were not even, that's why he decided to do this, so that we could celebrate the culture, celebrate our history, and create our own history. And what we feel is that we should never let anybody else tell our story, and that we make our own history.
What's the biggest surprise that you have noticed all these years in terms of what people do know, especially what we as Black people know about this part of our history?
You know, that's a very interesting question, because people did not know that there were Black cowboys and cowgirls. I mean, you didn't see them on television. You didn't read about them in history books, right? So why should you know? That's what it's all about, to make sure our community know our history, know what we represent, and know that these Black cowboys and cowgirls have skills and talent, and showcase that for them.
Now, I've heard the story of when your husband got the bug. When did it bite you? When did you?
You know, when I met Luvasan, I didn't know what a rodeo was. In 1984, I met him, and he invited me to come to a rodeo, but I had Michael Jackson tickets. I don't know that I would say the bug bit me until when Lou got sick and he wasn't able to travel anymore. And he basically said to me, if this is gonna continue, it's kind of gonna rest on you. And so I'm going, I can do this. So I guess that's when I got bit by the bug. And now we are here, you know, celebrating the 41 years, and I do it because you will see these young people out there that will rodeo with us. We provide a safe haven for them. We provide them an opportunity to develop their skills and feel good about it. And we are looking at our future champions. So I feel like we've built a foundation for the future generations just to continue to build on.
This rodeo has been in existence for more than 40 years. For more information on how to be a part, check out BillPickettRodeo.com. Still to come, we are turning back the pages of history at the Black Cowboy Museum.
This is a labor of love to God.
Welcome back to this Studio 5 special. In our countdown of 5 Black unsung cowboys, we want you to meet George McJunkin and Isom Dart.
At number 3, George McJunkin was a cowboy, ranch foreman, historian, and amateur archaeologist. He taught himself how to read, write, learn Spanish, and played several instruments. He is best known for his discovery of the Folsom site in 1908. The archaeological site stretches 8 miles in New Mexico. At number 2, Cowboy Isom Dart was a cattle rustler, rancher, and cattle driver, known as an outlaw in the Wild West for many years. He grew tired of the lifestyle and settled down as a rancher. Isom is depicted in several films, including Hannah's Law.
We have one more Black Cowboy story to share with you in our countdown in just a little bit. Now, as we explore the rich history of Black cowboys, we move from Fort Worth to Houston to visit the Black Cowboy Museum.
Larry Callis first opened the Black Cowboy Museum in 2017 in Rosenberg, Texas. 2025 marks a major move and milestone for his work. The museum will move here to nearby Kendleton, Texas, on land once owned by enslaved people.
Well, before we even begin this interview, I cannot sit and interview a cowboy, so I've asked to borrow your hat so that it's appropriate and fitting. Now, you wanted to be a cowboy since you were 3?
My dad was my big inspiration. He was a cowboy. He was a cowboy all his life. And when he used to come home with boots and spurs and chaps, I wanted to be a cowboy.
You also are the descendant of slaves.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that history and how you find out about who owned your family.
Well, on my father's side, it was a guy by the name of Kerr, James Kerr. He was from Edna, Texas. He had a bunch of slaves. He was a minister of the gospel. He had kids with slaves, and he put it in his Bible. He kept a list. He had 12 kids with slaves.
When you hear that and recognize this is a minister of the gospel who owns slaves, what does that do to you?
Well, I went back and I looked it up, and I found out that a lot of my grandpa, my great-grandpa, were ministers. And that's how I became a Christian. But I can trace my roots from the slave owners to 1472, King Edward IV and Queen Elizabeth. That's my relatives. And I found this out just by opening this museum.
Really?
See, when I opened this museum, I didn't want to open this museum. God asked me to open this museum. I say, God, I can't even talk. Why do you want me to open up a museum?
Why do you think it was important to God that the history of the Black Cowboy not be forgotten?
It wasn't just the history of the Black Cowboy. When God asked me to open up this museum, Black people started, when I got on the front page of the New York Times, it started spreading. This little small museum, millions of people are coming to this museum.
What do you think of this love and fascination with cowboys now?
That all comes from God. Every person, they love the cowboy. They love it. It comes from God.
Are you concerned when you see movements to remove Black history, not celebrate Black history?
Yeah, I'm concerned about it. But I have to turn it over to God.
Our country does have history that does certainly involve the sin of racism.
Right.
I imagine you've navigated some of that, bringing history to the forefront. What's that battle been like?
You know, it was tough. It was tough. But I lived.
What's your advice for those enduring those kind of trials right now, and what got you through?
Put God first. When you put God first, God will put you first. Every picture you see, God has his fingerprints on it. Every time I come in the museum, I just have to say, thank you, God, for showing this.
You're what obedience looks like.
I guess. This is a labor of love to God.
Visit blackcowboymuseum.com for more information on tours. Still ahead, we're staying in Houston to witness horsepower on 4 legs and 4 wheels.
This is someone who looks like me, who is successful, who is committed to his craft. And so oftentimes there's such a sense of joy and pride.
At number 1, Nate Love was an American cowboy and a writer who was very active during the Civil War. He was born into slavery, but he learned how to read and write with the help of his father. He wrote the autobiography, Life and Adventures of Nat Love, and was portrayed in the film The Cherokee Kid and the film The Harder They Fall.
That wraps our Black Cowboy Countdown in this special edition of Studio 5. You know, there is no black cowboy or black cowgirl without a horse. So we thought we'd take a closer look at these beautiful and intuitive animals and the people who care for them. So we head now to Horsepower Ranch to meet the Johnson family, masters of horsepower on 4 legs and 4 wheels.
A cowgirl?
I would. I would. I really would.
When did it start for you?
Probably in my early 20s. I had a love for horses. I acquired my very first horse in my 20s, and it just stayed with me. I just love the freedom that horses represent.
And we sit here at Horsepower Ranch.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Horsepower Ranch is our family ranch. I have a 19-year-old and a 12-year-old, and the 12-year-old, her name is Anna. She helps me here on the ranch with all the feeding and ensuring that the animals are really taken care of every day.
What can you tell me about the connection between cowboy, horse, and African American people? What's the tie?
The culture in Texas when it comes to ranching and this life of this equestrian life is so deep. You know, it goes all the way back to Bill Pickett. And so it's a wonderful thing. It's a lifestyle. And any Saturday or Sunday afternoon, you can find you a rodeo to go to in this Houston metro area.
So when you go to the rodeo, I imagine because of what you do, you're looking at things differently. How are you looking?
Well, I'm looking at the horses. I'm looking at the quality of the horses. I'm looking at how, you know, it's a big production. So people are coming in with their trucks and their trailers, their custom saddles, their custom boots, all of their gear. And so it's as if it's a pageant. Some say that, you know, it's a dying craft when it comes to, you know, the black cowboy. But in Texas, it is alive and well.
Would you say that the work you and your husband do with horses is a ministry in any way?
It is. That's one thing that we pride ourselves in doing, is not only taking care of these animals, but if we sell an animal or sell a horse, we make sure that it's good and docile.
In addition to horses, you guys are horsepower, 4 wheels or 4 legs,
That's right. That's correct.
So tell me about the 4 wheels.
The 4 wheels. My husband owns City Classic Cars and Restorations by Sabra, and we are a classic car restoration company here in the Metro Houston area. And so we pride ourselves in building some of the best classic cars, not only in the country, but in the world. It's the largest classic car company that's owned by an African American in the entire world.
Wow.
There are multiple locations here in Houston.
What does that say to young people, especially young African Americans coming up to see what you guys have achieved, especially those watching who may not have attained this, have never seen something like this before? What does that say to them?
It's as simple as this. Write the vision and make it plain. You know, your dreams can come true if you just sketch it out and work your plan. God has a vision for you. You just have to have enough belief in yourself and belief in God that He will do it just for you.
And you had that?
I had it. And so does my husband. He believes that and he lives by that.
Where'd that come from for you guys?
It came from our upbringing. We're Baptists, and just believing that God will move in your life. That faith comes from, I mean, we both grew up in the same church. We both had the same Sunday school teacher. And that was drilled in us not only on Sundays, but at home as well. We had strong parents who believed in teaching us that God will do something special just for you.
I imagine getting to where you guys are has not been easy. What do you recall about the struggle?
You have to keep working, no matter what. One of the key things that we believe is, if there is a struggle, there is a blessing. So just keep pushing forward. It's okay if it's hard, but just keep working towards it. And there is a blessing on the other side.
What do you say to young black boys and girls about that, in light of the fact that our ancestors endured racism? We have endured racism. Some people would like to say it doesn't exist today. What do you say to those young people?
You know, we can't educate everybody or change anybody's mind, but we can surely be confident in who we are. Since we're the only people here that look like us, we're going to be the best representatives. We're going to, whatever your thought is, we're going to be the best representatives of African Americans. We're going to represent African American greatness.
Is that a burden or a blessing?
It's a blessing. It's an honor.
Members of the Johnson family are also philanthropists. They help to fund missions and work to empower others. As for what's in my ear this week, the song Home on the Range has strong connections to the American West. It's a song passed from generation to generation by word of mouth, and it can be traced back to a 1908 recording by an African-American folklorist, John A. Lomax, in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day.
On that musical note, we are just about out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5, so let's take a quick look at next week's rundown.
Sonar laser got a
We have a problem. Jesus operates entirely outside our jurisdiction.
Season 5, The Chosen Last Supper, is in theaters now. We've got a look behind the scenes with the man behind the masterpiece, Dallas Jenkins.
The very fact that we're talking about season 5 is evidence that God's hand has been in this.
Please join us next week. As for this week, we've got time for just one more thing. Let's head back to the Black Cowboy Museum to get the final word from Larry Callis.
Take me back to when you were losing your voice. What were you saying to God at that moment, considering
Well,
this
I
was your dream?
was when I was losing my voice, I didn't blame God for it. I blamed myself because I worked for the post office and I worked 10 hours a day, and I went insane for 4 to 5 hours a night, 4 or 5 times a night, and I was single. And I would go home, sleep for about 4 or 5 hours, get up, do it again. For 10 years. And I blame myself. I don't blame God. I was going after the money. But I do give God credit for letting me do what I did.
Larry Callis, thank you. That is a great final word for this special edition of Studio 5. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then please come on back and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye, everybody.